Evan, you have grown your YouTube following to a pretty substantial number. Where are you at today? Somewhere.
3.6, something like that.
Can you walk me through just briefly? Tell us a little bit about the timeline of how it got there, and because I think that's a really, really important thing. You just mentioned how we suck at everything we start at, and I know that just in knowing your story that you just started doing this and you built it and you worked and you built it. But I'd love to just understand the trajectory of which you saw that channel grow.
Yeah, so I posted this graphic to my website, and it shows my year-over-year growth. And maybe as I'm talking, your team can like
Yeah,
pop it
we'll
up
add it.
beside me or something.
Sure.
But year one, I had 25 subscribers. And by year 5, I had 2,000 something subscribers. So it was not an overnight success story, Scott. It was rough. A lot of people, actually, people use that graphic often, and they'll tag me on tweets and Instagram and send me messages to say, "Hey, Evan, I'm beating you. Like, I'm in year 2 and I have 200 followers and you only had 100. Like, go for it. Let's go." People use it as inspiration because it wasn't some overnight success story. It was waking up every day, working on the craft, getting better, eventually getting a mentor. That's one of the things that really started to help propel my channel forward. But yeah, 5 years in, I still only had 2,000 subscribers. I think a lot of people listening to this, if you're 5 years in on your Instagram account or YouTube, you're probably ahead of me. At least you're close. So it's not out of the range of possibility. And it took a long time to find my footing, gain belief, like all the stuff that most people had, I had too. And I love being able to come on and share the stories of what I was going through, what I am going through, to show like I'm not perfect and I'm introverted and shy. And the thing that got me going was just I want to serve and I have a message that I think can help. The only thing I had going for me was I just kept going, like 350 videos in, it took me 350 videos, public videos, until I could watch myself back on camera. 350 videos. And it took 700 something before I thought I was good. Where one video I made is like, oh, okay, that's not bad. Let's go. I'm starting to get this thing. 700 public videos in, right? I just kept going. The only thing I had for me was I kept going. And when people ask me how, I always focus on who I was serving instead of who I wasn't. So if you have 50 people who watch your video, a lot of people see that as a failure. Like, oh, only 50 people? You spent all that time and only 50 people watch that video? Yeah, but if you're going to go speak at a Rotary Club and 50 people showed up, you'd be like excited. You'd be nervous. It's like, oh, 50 people are here. This is crazy. And I would just assume that for one of those 50 people, it's a life-changing video. We tend to default to think that we didn't get big numbers, nobody cares, nobody's leaving comments, and so I suck, and so I'm going to quit. Well, why not assume that for one person who watched it, maybe it's actually a life-changing video that they desperately needed right now? And that's happened so often to me now, how many years later, where people come back and they tell me a life-changing story that happened because I've watched my videos. And it's like 6 years ago that they watched the video and had this thing happen. And they never emailed me and they never DM'd and they never left a comment and they never said anything. And then they meet me 6 years later and then they tell me, oh my God, you had such an impact, right? Those are one of those 50 people who watched your video. And so the who we're not serving game never ends, right? Why am I not at 4 million or 10 million or 50 million, right? Subscribers. Why? Well, that game never ends, but you can always have gratitude and appreciate who you are serving. And if you felt connected to the people who you are helping, you're much more likely to have motivation, inspiration, consistency to show up every day to keep going.
Yeah, it's interesting because not only did you keep it up, but you also are explaining, I think what people start to see is that impact, and just knowing that one person is watching and listening and it could help them is enough to drive you to continue to do more and more. At least I know that it is for you. And I've always felt that way for me too, is that in those random moments, you see someone in a restaurant you haven't seen in 10 years and like, hey, I really love that video you did on X. And then you go watch it back and you're like, wow, I need to remember this video. This is important to me. I need to pay attention to exactly what I said, because this is so valuable. And in a way that it's something that you know and you're sharing with the world, but you're still processing, and that's part of the authentic piece, I think. And when you when it started to, so as the page went up and as you started to get more and more impact, who have you most enjoyed interviewing or learning from in your experience? Is there anybody or any couple of people that you've really enjoyed learning from, maybe who you watch when you're trying to gain a little bit of insight or excitement about the next level of YouTube?
Oh, wow. I was going in a different direction until you said that.
Take it wherever you want to go. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong answer. I'm like, do you watch Mr. Beast and be like, wow, he does such cool shit. I gotta follow. This is something I hadn't thought about, or, you know, I'm making
Okay.
that
So
up.
in the world of just YouTube, there's very few people who I talk to or take advice from. Mr. Beast is great. He's crushing it, obviously. It's a different niche than what I do inside of thought leadership education. Like, he's very much in the entertainment world.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said for making educational content more entertaining. But the dedication to split testing thumbnails and all that. So he's definitely great, but there's nobody really inside of my space who I look up to and say, wow, that person is just out of control. How are they doing it? I have no idea. So at the beginning, I was learning from all sorts of experts. You know, as you get better and as you become elite at the thing that you're great at, there's fewer people who can give you, you know, advice. So most of the stuff that we get is from our own experiments, constantly split testing. We've done like 20,000 split tests now on thumbnails and titles, helping all sorts of people in the industry. So most of that learning comes from just what we're seeing and what experiments we're running. And I wish there was somebody who was like just crushing it. I wish Mr. B started a podcast, because it'd be interesting to see how would he do it differently? Like, if he was going into education, how would he do it differently? Where I initially thought you were going with the question was just in general, like, who do you love having on the channel? Who are you learning from? And I learned from everybody that I profiled on the channel. Every time we do a profile piece on somebody, it's because I learned something from them and I want them in my life more. If you're thinking about high achievers, the people listening to this, you're probably the most ambitious high achiever already in your circle. You're more ambitious and high achieving than your family, your parents, your siblings, your friends, the people you went to high school with. You're already that. So it's easy to be the big fish in the small pond, but who's pushing you to want to do like the next big thing, right? And that's where I think membership groups, we talked about Genius Network, can be great, but that's also only once a month, right? Like what happens on the
Every other day.
and then you come back home and it's easy to fall back down. So that's where I think content at scale really helps. So I'm making videos that I still need myself, because I want Oprah in my ear and Elon Musk in my ear and like the best of all these people daily in my ear, because it pushes me to want to go off and do more. And so I'll start my day with a morning video from my own channel, something that I help make, but it's like, okay, yes, I need that message again today, because there are people who are achieving on a much bigger level than I am. And I still need it, because your environment pulls you up. And most people, when they follow accounts on Instagram or YouTube, they'll say, well, I open my phone and I'm wasting my time just scrolling through the feed. Well, you chose to follow those people, right? Like, I open my YouTube and Instagram and it's great. I'm excited. I'm learning through all this stuff. It's not negativity and news, and you're opting into all of that stuff. So audit who you're following, right? Add Scott Danner to that list of people to follow. You're not going to feel worse about yourself watching Scott. You're going to feel uplifted. And so we can do a conscious audit of who we follow, who we subscribe to, what content we watch, to get more of that fed to us. And I think that makes a big shift, because if every day you had Scott Danner, Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey in your ear, you like that trio? That's a good trio.
That was a good trio. Wow.
Scott Danner, Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey in your ear. You will become a higher achiever. You'll become a better version of yourself in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. It's just going to happen. They will pull you up to be better.
Yeah, and you know what I love about that is that anyone that's teaching or speaking or putting themselves out there as a high achiever is always trying to learn and become a higher achiever. They're always trying to grow and learn every day, even when you're paused and you're looking through that feed, you're trying to grow and learn and build wisdom within yourself that you can share with other people. And I think that's so powerful and super, super fun to listen to. And when you mention that you're talking about some of these other individuals, the Elon Musk, the Oprah Winfrey, the Evan Carmichaels, you know, all of that. What's funny is you said something that was, you know, when you're elite, you often go in and I wish there was somebody else that I was looking up to in that space. I've talked to a lot of professional athletes, and part of their mantra when they go out there is they will tell themselves, I'm the best. I am aiming at being better every day. They're not getting in their head in a negative way. It's a positive way, but they are elite. They want to get better. They surround themselves with people to get better every day, but they do look at themselves when they go out on the court or go out on the field that they are the best player right now, right there in that space. And that helps them rise to a whole new level and helps bring everybody else around them up as well. So I don't know if that's an idea of when you think of elite people and how they're functioning, but I do believe it tends to be something that is very normal.
Yeah, I think this is maybe one area where I'm different than a lot of the people in personal development around comparison. People obviously don't compare yourself to others. I actually like it, but I think you have to do it in the right way. Most people, when they compare themselves to others, they're kicking themselves down. Oh, I'm not as successful as Scott, or I'm not as good looking as whoever, or I'm not a whatever. And you see them and I can't be that. And so you feel bad about yourself. That person's further ahead and they're younger than I am, so I'm done. And you kick yourself down, right? I see someone who's had lots of success, like, wow, that's possible. You know, I look at Les Brown, you know, young Les Brown is my hero of a speaker. He had me on his podcast, which was a nice full circle moment for me.
That's awesome.
But I look at young Les Brown and like, he is the greatest speaker of all time in my book. And I look at that and say, man, that's what's possible. Not that I could never be like that, but that's what's possible. And that makes me want to push harder. And so some people look at others and they kick themselves down. Other people look at others and they kick themselves forward. But I think without the comparison, you stay stuck. Like, I think you need a kick.
Right.
Just kick yourself forward and set it down. If you see that that's possible, it could be inspiring for you to go off and chase down that thing too. And I think most people stay stuck because there is no kick or they're kicking themselves down.